It's sort of funny how the years of the MCU accidentally predicted cultural touchstones in the United States and globally over the years. When Iron Man came out, there were immediate comparisons to the then almost universally beloved entrepreneur Elon Musk. Then when Captain America Civil War came out, a similarly fractured America began to ever increasingly slide into political division, which continues to this day. In 2019, when Endgame came out, the idea of a global event that killed millions of people and shut the entire planet down for years at a time seemed completely inconceivable until that actually happened in the pandemic less than a year later. Now, Captain America Brave New World would like you to imagine the outlandish scenario in which a heavily compromised American commander-in-chief with a severe anger problem and a personality disorder is being controlled by a man who thinks that he's a lot smarter than he actually is, a self-styled genius, if you will, trying to take over the United States government through brainwashing so that he can avoid prison time that he earnestly deserves. But this fantastic and completely unimaginable scenario is, while better than most of the recent Marvel fare, still suffering from a little bit of the feeling of being more of the same, if you will. Still, there's a lot of major good and some pervasive bad, and some very good reasons why the bad was probably bad in this case. Also, why the post-credits scene might be the very most worthless in MCU history. And that movie is what we're talking about today. Captain America, Brave New World. I'm Dan Upton, and this is the Tombcast. Alright, first off, do me a favor, hit subscribe and the bell. I make about one of these videos a week. They're all great, so please don't miss even one. I generally don't talk about things that I hate. I only really talk about things that I tend to like. While I didn't totally love this movie, I didn't dislike it. I didn't have as many problems with it as I have recent other Marvel movies. But listen, before we get into this, we are going to get into spoilers here, like from the jump. So if you haven't seen this and you want to avoid any spoilers for this movie, please just save the video, come back whenever you actually do see it. Secondly, like I said, I really enjoyed this movie for the most part. I enjoyed it a lot more than I enjoyed Ant-Man 3 or Thor Love and Thunder. It's truthfully one of the better post-Endgame Marvel films that isn't explicitly already a farewell movie like Deadpool and Wolverine or No Way Home or Wakanda Forever. I think those hit really hard for obvious reasons. That said, I don't feel like it carries the same weight or feels like it's building to anything else in a coherent way like everything pre-Endgame did. This movie just kind of feels like it had to get made, and that's not good. We got introduced almost immediately to Sidewinder of the Serpent Society, official enough for a backpatch, who has stolen some MacGuffin that Cap and Joaquin Torres, the new Falcon, need to get back. Giancarlo Esposito is Sidewinder and is, as you might expect, one of the highlights of the movie, but he was frankly wasted on a very minor villain, and to be honest, I wish that they'd cast him as older Kang or something like that, because he always brings an intensity to everything which is pitch perfect. Also, they gave him a Chiappa Rhino 50DS at one point in the movie, and that is cool as hell. Anyway, Sam shows off some new gear, including vibranium wings and bladed feathers and a new flight helmet as well. That MacGuffin is Adamantium, as it turns out, where Harrison Ford as Thunderbolt Ross announces and discusses at a White House summit, at which Isaiah Bradley, the Forgotten Cap, along with multiple others, are brainwashed into attempting to assassinate him. Let's stop for one quick second here, because Ford is also one of the better actors in this, as is Carl Lumbly, a name that definitely belongs to a guy who's as tall and as big as he is. Anthony Mackie also is pretty darn good. Ford's Ross is perpetually popping pills, but also at one point takes a lollipop, which I assume is not a fentanyl lollipop, but a nicotine one, because he quit smoking, right? Like he's not addicted to opioids. They never went back and explained that. Anyway, Ross is severely estranged from his daughter Betty Ross, who was played by Liv Tyler in the 2008 Hulk, which they've come back to 17 years later, or in MCU time, is it 23 years later? Sam Wilson and a small woodland gnome named Ruth managed to take out the attackers while Sam pursued Bradley and convinces him to give up. And here's one of my guesses on the reshoots. The halfling character, Ruth Betzeroff, while extremely and inexplicably short, is also supposed to be the Israeli superhero Sabra, who they never actually mention her codename or background, nor do they show her in full costume or even suggest that she is Israeli, probably because of the ongoing genocide in Palestine, which would make this film about a black man beating the living shit out of a monster that is also the president of the United States too political, and by representing somebody who is notionally part of the IDF. Anyway, I do see the problem with that, but they just explain her as being a former Red Room widow, but also Shira Haas is a remarkably small person, and I'm sure that she knows that. Not something that she can help, but despite her small stature, they give her some very legitimate fight choreography, so kudos to her. In any case, the assassination attempt threatens a peace accord over the mining of adamantium from the corpse of the Celestial, which rose out of the sea in Eternals, which this is only the second time they've mentioned it after that movie came out 5 years ago. Frankly, it is corny to introduce the Celestials the way that they did, and it is even cornier that adamantium, which is... It's hard after... once it's solid, adamantium is unworkable in comics, so it has to be cast from resins to create this alloy, which I understand that that's not really how metal works, but it's also incredibly rare in comics. Only a few people know how to make it. And so to introduce it as something that can just get mined in mass quantities makes it seem far less rare, and I don't know what direction they're going to end up going with that. But they're obviously going to end up making Silver Samurai, right? That's clearly going to happen, and clearly this is how they introduce Wolverine one way or the other. Anyway, Japan rightly figures out that the US and Ross set up the theft of their adamantium as an excuse for Captain America to recover it so that the US could have this as a resource. This leads Cap and Falcon to Camp Echo 1, where Samuel Stearns, the leader, is... They never call him the leader, but okay. The leader's been imprisoned by Thunderbolt Ross and had been forced to help him with his heart condition. The leader hits Cap with, I think, some sort of gravity wave device and then yells, "Don't be boring," a thing which I wish the director had told Tim Blake Nelson, because I love Tim Blake Nelson, but he is the most boring character in this movie, sadly. Anyway, dang it, the design and the power set just don't really match the leader. I've literally been waiting for 17 years for them to do that ever since they teased it, and this is what we got. Come on, they don't even give him the giant head and psychic powers. Come on, you're not fooling anybody anymore, Marvel. Just lean into the weird shit. Go for it. You don't have anything to lose at this point. God. Anyway, Samuel Stearns escapes and sets his plan to throw the United States and Japan into naval conflict, which Cap and Falcon go to prevent, while Ross fights off the urge to Hulk out. Falcon is severely injured during this fight. Stateside, Cap is visited by Bucky while he's in the hospital with Falcon. Bucky is ostensibly running for Congress, I think. Is that what I gathered? Cat is now out of the bag that the pills are full of gamma radiation, making Thunderbolt Ross into a Hulk. Cap moves to confront him. The fight takes place in the White House Rose Garden and then along the Potomac next to the cherry blossoms, which is really sad because all of those trees end up getting destroyed. It comes down to pretty much Sam giving everything, getting a whole vibranium wing ripped off, and then doing the one wing angel thing right into Hulk's chest and overloading it with a vibranium burst. Then they both get up from it, and then he talks the Hulk down. And then they put Thunderbolt Ross in the raft, which is the most unrealistic thing about this film, is a sitting president actually experiencing consequences for actions in office which are illegal. Betty then comes to forgive him. And then you get a post-credit scene where the leader alludes to the existence of other Earth dimensions in the multiverse. So, yeah, we knew that was happening. Totally worthless post-credit scene, about as worthless as the one from the 2008 Hulk. Anyway, bummer. I really like Tim Blake Nelson, though. And the leader. Damn it! like I said, there's bright spots, but it's not incredible either. Not the win that Marvel needs right now at this point in the franchise. The biggest bright spots are, of course, in order of appearance and quality: Giancarlo Esposito, Anthony Mackie, and then Harrison Ford. Ford is unfortunately hard to root for and mostly unlikable because this character should be. Mackie is, in general, a pretty good actor, but while this isn't his strongest performance, it's not a bad one either. If I had to give this a number, I'd give it a 7 out of 10, but that's probably still a little generous, I think. Marvel has kind of bogged itself down by strange continuity like the Blip and the Celestial Island, and that started to feel like the late days of the 1610 Ultimate Universe, where the stories just start getting, frankly, more and more ludicrous and sort of wondering what the heck you're planning on doing and what it's even moving forward to. Ultimately, the only things that came out of that to survive were the Maker and Miles Morales in Secret Wars, which is what we're heading to with this. And that ended in a continuity reset. So, kind of can't wait for that to happen in the MCU, to tell you the truth. Because I think it's going to probably need it. Really painted themselves into a corner with a lot of weird stuff, without leaning into the truly weird stuff. And I don't know, maybe that's what they need to do again. Maybe take a cue from X-Men 97 and just straight up do as much of a direct adaptation as you possibly can of stuff in the future. Because that was working for them for a while. Anyway, the hell do I know? Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been the Doomcast. Let me know if I missed anything in the comments. Just, be, in general, respectful and chill. Thanks. Peace.